The growing popularity of freestyle cards with every passing set has become a major discussion point anytime the set comes out. And for good reason. Most freestyle cards have fantastic effects, they're easily splashable into just about any deck, and they're usable by any MP regardless of alignment. That said, there's some freestyle cards from prior sets that may be more valuable in the current game than they were when they first came out, and may be overlooked, especially with the value of certain archetypes that are growing in the game, such as mill decks and fast level decks. While they may not be the greatest cards for every given situation, there are some cases where these cards are going to be extremely valuable, and in certain decks, they can definitely be a tool to give you extra leverage against the opponent, which that's what we're going to look at today. I'm Eric with Team Badman, and we are looking at 5 overlooked and underrated freestyle cards in the Dragon Ball Z collectible card game. Now, there are a couple of caveats to this list, so I'll spell those out here before we start. First, no named cards are included on this list, considering that those are limited to the specific MP whose name the card includes. However, alignment-restricted cards are fair game, as well as cards that are considered named for card effects. Just because some MPs can't use it doesn't mean that it's not a valid option for those that can. Second, no cards that are considered styled are on this list. Something about it just doesn't feel fair, considering that it has immediate synergy in certain styles, such as Black Perceptive and Orange Adept. Since it doesn't play like a non-styled card, I can't really consider it one for the sake of this list. Sorry, Debilitating Volley. Maybe next time. Lastly, the card has to actually see minimal play. You know, the foil freestyle rares that go for $2 a pop? The ultra rares that typically stay in the back of the binder? Those kind of cards. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be valuable surprises in here. It just means that the overwhelming powers and the playful punches of the card game aren't on the list, since we already know how useful they are. Number 5. Flip Toss. Players who have experienced almost any of the top meta options in the current game will know how frustrating it can be to face decks that directly mill cards from the life deck. It seems like any of the current top choices have some way to do this. Krillin has access to Black Foreshadowing, Cell has access to Cell's Style, Android 20's level 3 has this ability every turn, and there's the always notorious Piccolo level 2. Throw in other decks who exhibit this power, such as Tien and Dr. Wheelo, and the open to anyone Namek Dragon Ball 7, and decks without discard pile recursion face an almost immediate disadvantage. The movie collection delivered a countermeasure in Lookout Drill, but that's only good for the first instance of mill. Smart decks can work around this using lesser mill effects to trigger the card's effect, then use the stronger effects to peel through the opponent's life deck. While this does seem like a downer, the movie collection did offer another option, one that's been almost exclusively a binder card since the set's release: Flip Toss. Shutting off all immediate mill effects as long as it's attached, it can slow down very dedicated mill-based cards and really have an effect on decks that utilize that as an extra way to deal damage. One of the issues with Flip Toss is maintaining its longevity on the field. It's removed as an attached card as soon as any attack hits, which is almost guaranteed to happen in just about any given combat. As far as an offensive card goes, it's not particularly great either, being just an AT+2 card and not really having any other noticeable effects. It's more of a niche option for more defensive kind of decks that really suffer from strong mill presence. That said, decks such as Blue Protective would certainly have a better time keeping this out on the field with the plethora of defensive options as well as the mastery available. But Orange Adaptive and even Orange Adept decks could also find value with this using the defensive drills Burning Aura and Steady. The main asset to this card at the moment is the growing popularity of Tien, who deals a considerable amount of damage to both himself and his opponent with mill effects. Rendering one of the primary effects of his named cards moot, as well as others like Goku's Kaioken and Dr. Wheelo's Revival, makes it a tech option that's at least worth some consideration going into OP season, especially as part of some anti-meta options. Its limited scope places it at the bottom of the list here, but it's an option nonetheless, and one that may surprise unsuspecting players. Number 4. Devastating Blow / Pulverize. Devastating Blow. Back in Set 1, it was an incredibly common sight, and for good reason. It was effective anger hate, it was the second best discard hate effect in the game, and it was splashable in any number of decks. Time has come and gone since then, and several more sets have also come and gone, and it seems Devastating Blow has somewhat been forgotten in the sands of card game time, a once useful consideration that ends up cut for other utilities. As more and more powerful cards find themselves not featuring that little banish after use clause at the bottom, Devastating Blow finds itself being a better and better option. It's always had immediate use in the Namekian matchup, banishing troublesome cards like Right Throw and Hybrid Defense, as well as common staples in any deck like Time is a Warrior's Tool. However, as of late, more and more named cards have found themselves exempt from being banished, with Tien receiving one of the most devastating tools that's not banished in Tri-Beam to go alongside his already potent Preparation. Seeing as how styles such as Namekian, Blue, and Red have all been receiving cards that banish from an opponent's discard pile as well as the own, Freestyle options should be extremely valuable and extremely useful as we make our way into OP season. While it's to a lesser extent, as a secondary option, Pulverize can also fit a niche, offering discard pile hate and the ability to attack any attack card onto the top of the life deck. What tends to be a laughable option at best can actually be a quite usable option in the current metagame, with fast leveling decks able to abuse the ability to summon anger-rich cards, stasis decks pulling out useful offensive or defensive options, and combo personalities like Android 16 and Master Roshi able to kickstart their chains early to overwhelm opponents. If only it weren't so easy to forget that stupid trigger. Number 3. Elimination. The effects of defensive cards often tend to be more momentum shifting than offensive cards, and the growing defensive pool for every style in the game makes this all the more apparent. Many early blocks have a high level of synergy with popular deck choices, such as Black Delay, which virtually guarantees a card loss from the opponent's hand, and Red Blocking Hand, which is one of the best anger offering blocks in the current game. More recent blocks such as Black Easy Block, Orange Plan Block, and Red Capture fit comfortably into a number of increasingly common decks, and the game's most powerful blocks, Time is a Warrior's Tool and Namekian Hybrid Defense, can single-handedly change an excellent combat into a dead one. This is where Elimination comes in. A win-entering setup that shuts off all immediate block effects will hamper almost any defensive hand and can open up unprepared hands to an onslaught of attacks, specifically from the likes of Yamcha Tien, who can generate an insane amount of actions every turn. It also shuffles in 2 styled cards from the discard pile, which is just icing on the cake, and provides a degree of card recursion for styles that lack that ability, such as Black and Red. The downside to Elimination is that it impacts both players' blocks, which can kind of slow down more aggressive decks that utilize very effect-heavy blocks. That said, it's still a phenomenal choice for hyper-aggressive decks that run into issues with certain blocks and want to get that out of the way, particularly decks that struggle with Namekian and their plethora of overtuned blocks. Forceful Block, Hybrid Defense, Flinch. Yeah, I see you there, Flinch. I see you there. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go. You keep going. Yeah, that's what I thought. Elimination is a fantastic choice to include in the hyper-aggressive Turles decks, which offer a great option to work around defensive cards that can cause major slowdown of a stage damage onslaught, such as Orange Cover-Up and Black Finger Block. It's even more entertaining to use in Orange style, where Orange Freezing Drill is a viable option to force an opponent to use nerfed block cards in order to protect from heavy unpreventable damage. Throw in the damage boosting drills, pop this setup, and you're off to the races. Oh, behold my power! Number 2. Android Defensive Blast. Non-styled cards have been gaining momentum with every passing set, so much to the point that it's not a far-fetched idea to see the Freestyle Mastery coming back into the game within the next couple of sets. Cards like I'll Dig Your Grave and Sinister Choke are virtually staple status at this point, and name cards have been getting better and better effects with each new lot of MPs that enter the game. Along with this, though, has been a lot of hate for the Freestyle cards as of late. Both the Cell Ally and Cell's level 2 power force an extra stage cost on Freestyle attack cards, and cards like Android Superiority specifically target non-styled cards for at least a part of their effect. Perhaps the current pinnacle, and one of the more underutilized cards from Perfection, is Android Defensive Blast. A 2-stage for 5 life energy attack, it fits in line with the expected power of current energy attack cards, and it boasts an extra 1 anger gain and endurance to boot. The key to this card, though, is its hit effect, which shuts off the immediate effects of all non-styled attack cards for the turn. An offensive variant of Elimination's effect, having both of these active for a turn will completely change an opponent's game plan, particularly if they are reliant on named cards to do most of the work. Cell, Roshi, Tien, Krillin, and more will all experience drastic slowdowns on any given turn, which can quickly change a bad matchup into a good one in the hands of a skilled player. While it may affect both players, and it doesn't shut off MP abilities since they're not considered attack cards, it still stops enough at any given time to make the card a worthwhile consideration. Now, before we get to number 1, I wanted to take a look at a couple of honorable mention cards that may not necessarily have made the top 5, but are still options worth considering. Vicious Strike is the first of these, which is an extremely useful tool against rejuvenation-heavy decks, especially with the exploding popularity of Namekian. Cell helped bring a whole new level of the card game to Namekian, which it didn't really need in the first place, and it's known that its rejuvenation effects are a big part of what makes Namekian Restored Cell such a success. As a result, if your deck doesn't really have a good means of discard removal, Vicious Strike could be a very useful option. As an offensive card, it's not too bad. It's got Endurance 3, which is always phenomenal. And on hit, if you're really that worried about Cell leveling, you can lower your MP1 level to lower theirs a level at the end of combat, which may not always work great given that the MP may have I'll Dig Your Grave, or a Namekian Leaping Kick, or just about any kind of leveling card available in his hand to get around that. But it's still a useful tool to have if you're really worried about leveling and MPPV decks. The other card on the list is Villainous Empowerment, which is one of those really kind of overlooked and left in the dust cards from the largely underwhelming Heroes and Villains set. The issue at the time when it came out is there weren't a whole lot of MPs that were really drill focused that would be okay with shutting off some of their own drills. With the release of Evolution, Android 20 came out, and considering that he's all about the drills and he's got consistent ways to pull them out, Villainous Empowerment could be a great tool to get out some of those style drills that may be more useful. This is especially useful in the growing Black Devious option, where you can use it to not only shut off your opponent's setups and drills, but also pull out Black Smoothness Drill, which isn't going to be hampered by the shut-off effect since it only applies at the end of combat. This means that you'll still have that extra hand advantage, still be able to pull out one of your freestyle drills with his effect, and you get to shut off your opponent's drills and setups. This is especially useful against decks such as Garlic Jr., Yamcha, and Master Roshi, who really kind of thrive off of that board state and want to utilize it as much as they can. Number 1. Heroic Dashing Punch. If there is any one card in the game that could be described as overtuned, this is most definitely it. Anger Gain, your opponent skipping their next action, all life card damage being banished, and that's not even the hit effect. Heroic Dashing Punch definitely earned its place as an ultra rare, and the potential for this card is through the roof, with the complete possibility in some decks to be just as valuable as I'll Dig Your Grave. No, I'm serious, I'm not kidding. Don't give me that look. In the past, decks that have struggled to deal with quicker anger decks have almost certainly had to rely on Wallbreaker to handle the issue, with most, if not all, Black Krillin decks being forced to run the card. While it is nonetheless still a great card, and possibly even better now with the importance of anger to a number of Cell decks, it's a virtually dead option against non-anger decks due to its limited offensive power. It's one of those cards where the thought upon seeing it is either, "This is exactly what I needed," or "I could literally have drawn anything else." This is where Heroic Dashing Punch comes in. Not necessarily as a replacement, but as a counterpart to Wallbreaker. Dashing Punch's hit effect, which stops an opponent's anger gain completely for the turn, is outrageously powerful and will stop some MPPV decks cold, especially when combined with the card's immediate ability to make all life card damage banished. It also deals more damage than Wallbreaker in most cases. While 5 stages of damage isn't much to write home about, I'll Dig Your Grave deals only 1 stage more, and the effects of both of these cards are the real reason you're running them anyway. What's even more ridiculous is the potential synergy Heroic Dashing Punch and I'll Dig Your Grave can have with one another. Dig shuts off the damage prevention, Heroic Dashing Punch banishes the damage, and combining the two cards deal 11 stages, which will almost certainly induce stage lock if both hit. Remember back in Set 2 when the Frieza ally was almost single-handedly responsible for Ginyu's overwhelming advantage against Namekian decks? Imagine that for every hero deck out there. Yamcha, Tien, Trunks? Yeah, you see where this is going. The only real shortcoming to running Heroic Dashing Punch as part of an Anger Hate package is the fact that it has to hit in order to stop Anger Gain. And while it may open opposing decks to more dangerous physical attacks, Heroic Dashing Punch is also one that's an easy choice to block. Styles that carry intrinsic Anger Hate, such as Blue Protective, can run this card on its own, but most other decks could benefit from running Heroic Dashing Punch side by side in decks with Wallbreaker, especially as Cell continues to grow in popularity. While it's not a magic silver bullet to Anger decks, it's certainly one of the most splashable options for hero decks, and one that is liable to make you question why it's currently selling for only $25 a piece. I'm pretty sure Krillin decks will see some gross satisfaction from hitting an upward dodge Destructo Disc for a banished, unpreventable 9 life cards. But that will just have to be seen. And that is our list. While it's certainly not comprehensive by any means, and there are some cards that I'm sure we overlooked, hopefully this will give you a bit of an idea of some possibly niche options to kind of try, especially if you're trying some slightly more anti-meta, some kind of different options for some of your decks we make our way into OP season. And who knows, they may end up surprising you. So that's going to do it. Did you guys like the list? If you did, be sure to click the like button down below. If not, click the dislike button down below and let us know what you guys didn't like so that we can change it for any future Table Talk videos that we do. I love listening to you guys, love getting ideas from you guys, so be sure to include some of those in the comment section down below. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to click the subscribe button down below so that you can follow any of our Table Talk videos and all the other series that we've got on the channel, as well as any of our new uploads that we get. We've got some new ideas that are coming in the future, some new series, so be sure to check those out. And also, be sure to check our social media links down below. You guys can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So we would love to interact with you guys over there, so come say hey, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. So that is going to do it for this edition of Team Badman Table Talk. I am Eric with Team Badman signing out. And like always, guys, stay bad. Thanks for watching.